Hello, everybody. Without further ado, we'll get started. Today's topic is going to be on beneficiary review. I thought this was apropos. It's an area that I often will touch base with clients along the process. It's sort of out of sight, out of mind. So that's where the slide says, did you forget something? Your beneficiaries, perhaps. You're going to see here some case studies that have happened, some horror stories that have happened, and then some of my personal experiences that I've seen happen, and what we can do to correct it, to make sure that what you want to have happen actually happens should you no longer be here. So there's two things that are certain in life: taxes and death. It's the thing that we don't want to talk about, right? Obviously, it's a depressing topic. It's never easy. I just went to the wake of this family and watching not only the wife, but the young children. I mean, when I say young, the daughter was 23, 24, and the son 24, 25. Now having to help their mom, it's just, to me, it's the circle of life. And, this is why what we do as advisors with our client is so important. It's not just getting to retirement and through retirement, but it's just making sure that having plans in place are really, really instrumental in making sure that what you want to have happen does in fact happen. So here's a case. John Wayne Hunter, he died in October of 2005. He had retired from Marathon Oil Company, where he was a participant in the company pension plan. The plan allowed Hunter to designate a primary and secondary beneficiary. Hunter designated his wife as a primary beneficiary, but failed to designate any secondary, or the term is known as contingent beneficiary. After his wife died, he failed to designate a new beneficiary, so by default, it will go to the estate. Under the plan terms, when a participant dies without a designation of a valid beneficiary, deceased participant benefits were distributed in the following order of priority: surviving spouse, which by the facts of this case had already passed; surviving children, and that's the key one right there, children; surviving parents, surviving brothers and sisters; and finally participants' estate. So because this is how the flow would work, the third party administrator, this gentleman, John Wayne Hunter, had two stepsons, had raised them with his wife. By all intents and purposes, were his children, but not in eyes, and think about who made this decision, the third party administrator, the person administering the plan, said, no, stepchildren are not considered children, and therefore it did not go to them. Well, the case got sued. The lawsuit reversed the decision and said, no, the stepchildren were the rightful and could be deemed the children. But then the Fifth Circuit Court overruled that and sided with the original interpretation of the plan administrator. Bottom line is this gentleman had passed, the wife had passed, and if he and the wife, while they were alive, had decided that they wanted it to go to the children, fine-tuning your documents, and this is one of the things where we spend a lot of time on, is making sure that what you want to have happen actually happens should you no longer be here. So here's another example. How would you feel if you died and your ex, now I say that EX are the two most expensive letters in the alphabet. I would not wish a divorce on my worst enemy. Having been divorced once, very painful. So imagine if this person passes and their ex, who was intended to get nothing after the recent divorce, was allowed to collect all the company pension benefits and the proceeds of the company provided life insurance. Probably not very good. If you wanted that money to go to your son or daughter from an earlier marriage to get the money, unfortunately, the dad in this case failed to change the beneficiary designations from his pension benefits and life insurance after the divorce. And so his ex remained the named beneficiary. 2 months later, the dad was killed in a car crash. The Supreme Court ruled that the beneficiary designation trumped the state law that would have automatically disinherited the ex. So the ex got the money, and the kids got the bills and the expenses of the unsuccessful legal fight. All right, and then in yet another case, an ex-wife collected $400,000 from her ex-husband's company savings in an investment plan, even though the ex-wife had specifically waived any interest in the plan under the divorce agreement. Believing the divorce agreement was the last word on the subject, the ex-husband failed to turn in the form required to officially change the plan beneficiary from his ex-wife to his daughter. He died 7 years after the divorce. The plan document stipulated that beneficiaries could only be changed by submitting the form. The Supreme Court ruled that the hideously out-of-date beneficiary designation trumped the divorce agreement. So the ex-wife got the $400,000 and the daughter got stiff. This has happened time and time and time again. And it's because, nobody wants to talk about this. Right? And a lot of advisors don't even take the time to go through and make sure beneficiaries are positioned the way that they wanted to. Now, this is a case of a client of mine, actually. And this was, I share this, and the names are kept hidden in protection of the innocent. But in 2015, the client came into my office in Somerset so that we could call the company of his existing IRA to authorize a direct rollover to an annuity, right? So he had an IRA elsewhere, they come on board, we're going through the forms. He had come in without his newly married wife, and he's remarried, and they're both clients of mine and been clients of mine for years. And as this, new family dynamics took place, we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. When we called the company, there was a validation protocol that was in place. And one of the verification questions that they asked was, what is the name of your primary beneficiary on your account? And he named his current spouse. And the woman on the other line said that is incorrect. It's like, ooh. And then he named his ex-spouse, of which he had been separated and divorced for, to my knowledge, almost 7 years. And they were still finalizing some of the details of totally and separating their finances altogether. So we caught that in time, and I say this jokingly, good thing his current wife wasn't there, but this is the type of oversight that can happen, and I see. And there was, good intentions. I could wallpaper this wall with good intentions, but if we want to make sure that certain things happen in the eyes of the law, we have to double and triple check all of our holdings and our titlings and our trusts and our wills and everything that we're doing. Life insurance contracts, beneficiaries of our 401ks and TSPs and everything, all the forms, it's complex. That's part of what we do, is to make sure that what you filled out 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago is what you still want to have happen today. It's worth the time to review that. So assets can transfer 4 ways. They can transfer by will, and you need properly dated and drafted wills. So the issue, though, is typically wills, and the reason that we encourage trusts is because wills are public. So anybody can start to look up and see what you had. Trusts have to be properly drafted and funded. That's keyword funded. So if you create a trust, then you have to move assets into it. And trust can be either revocable or irrevocable. But the key point here is, and the reason and advantage of doing a trust is because it's private. Assets can transfer by law. So if you go to the bank and you have an account and you set up something called transfer on death, TOD, or payable on death, that means that somebody else either might have joint check writing privileges, or upon your death will go to whoever the other person that you deemed or designated. So that's by law or by contract. And that's what some of the examples that I had shown you. Your pension forms, your 401ks, your IRAs, your life insurance and annuities all have these questions. Who do you want to be your beneficiary? Your primary beneficiary, contingent beneficiary. And this can be and go down several legs and should be reviewed to understand the what ifs that could happen should life happen. So there's 2 types of beneficiaries. Make sure to review them. There's the primary and then the contingent. And you can have several primaries, and you can also have several contingents. If you leave them blank, they're going to go to the estate. and then they are at mercy of the state law and whatever errors that deem that they feel that they want to battle for your assets. So don't procrastinate. Been doing this a long time. It's an uncomfortable subject. We try and talk about it in a fashion that we don't have to get overly emotional about it, that we can be logical in our thought processes, make sure that what you want to have happen actually happens. Your beneficiaries should be reviewed every 5 years, just as a matter of habit, to make sure, is that what you still want? Has anything changed? And that goes for wills and trusts as well. So any of these documents that we tend to put in a drawer earlier in our lives, as we approach retirement years, we start to say, let's just put it in a drawer, safety deposit box, or fireproof safe, and we'll put it over there and that'll be fine. Here's a checklist. Steps to take to change beneficiaries. Only you can change the beneficiaries on your account. You cannot change a beneficiary after death. People have tried. Gather all of your 401k, 403b, IRA, insurance contracts, and policy numbers and review them. Then call each carrier and get written confirmation that they've received it. I just got off the phone with the client on something a completely different issue in a transaction that we have a recorded call of instituting and giving instructions to. Never happened on August 28th. Things happen. You have to check and follow up. Put confirmations with your contracts in a fireproof safe or safety deposit box. This is just prudent. I'm trying to help give you the things that we know intuitively, suggestions to do, trying to help encourage you to just take steps to get this done. Folks, we're at the end of our call. Like I said, every week I try and keep this to 15 minutes to 30 minutes, depending on, this is a short week because it is a pretty to the point topic. So again, ask yourself, did you forget something? Your beneficiaries, perhaps. When was the last time you visited or reviewed? Do you need help in doing so? And we want to thank you for taking time, for joining us every week. And remember, don't keep us a secret. If there's anything we can do to help, we're still in a COVID environment, and if you just need somebody to talk to, that's what we're here to do. So guys, have a great day, have a great week, and again, I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.